Hello and welcome to Proudly Young Live, where we talk, learn, and laugh. My name is Wendy Wangoi.
And my name is Sean Gatia. An increase of institutions of higher learning has led to a demand for hostels. As a result, developers in this sector have decided to provide more options.
The options include Kwetu, Classy Ladies Hostel, Bahamas, Kivu Hostels, and others.
Wendy, what's your hostel experience been like?
I actually don't have a hostel experience. I think my parents just wanted to keep me close to them. What about you?
Well, for me, I've had two experiences. The first experience was at a shared hostel. So you can find your between 2 to 8 people in one room, sharing a shower, sharing a kitchen. So you can imagine how beautiful that would be.
Beautiful.
Yeah. But then the second experience was being in a single hostel, whereby you just share the common spaces like the TV room, the library, but each and every single thing you have is individual. And that's something I preferred 100% more.
Oh, that's actually interesting that you got to experience the best of both worlds. But let me ask you, if you were to pick between a single accommodation or a mixed accommodation, which one would you pick?
I would definitely choose a mixed accommodation because I believe it's good to be well equipped of how society is. So those are my 2 cents.
That's interesting. I'd also pick the mixed accommodation.
Yeah. Speaking of that, do you know that there's some hostels whereby your parents have to, it's like parents have to sign out for you before you leave. So like before you go to the school, before you go out, before you go for shopping, your parents has to approve that you've left the compound.
Okay, I feel like that totally beats the purpose of going to a hostel.
Exactly.
You'd just rather stay at home.
Yeah, because being out of a hostel is like getting out of this bubble and being a responsible person. So yeah, I also share the same thoughts as you. Did you know that globally over 300 million people who come back from war suffer from PTSD?
Let's find out more about it.
My name is Joyce Ngugi. I am the counselor at Africa Digital Media Institute. I've been a counselor for the last 13 years, working especially with the youthful populations, treating quite a number of psychological conditions, including trauma, depression, anxiety. I've mostly worked in educational settings. I love working with learners or students and to have them achieve their full potential in academics is my passion. Post-traumatic stress disorder is one of the more recent diagnoses that was started in 1980s from work with war veterans. So it was found that soldiers who are coming back from war had these reactions that were quite immediate and sudden, especially when they had any subtle noise, they would jump. And so post-traumatic stress disorder became one of the illnesses now we recognize in mental health, which comprises, an event, exposure to a traumatic event, and a host of symptoms, including avoidance, hypervigilance, hyperreactivity, and alterations in mood and thinking. So it's basically trauma, and this form of trauma happens after an event, therefore it's called post-traumatic stress disorder. There are about 7 signs and symptoms of PTSD. The first symptom is exposure. So either directly witnessing an event or learning about an event that happened to a loved one, or people who work as fast responders or emergency first aid workers, getting repeated exposure to some sudden traumatic event. That's usually the first symptom. Then avoidance. Avoidance of the memories of the event, avoidance of the actual places. For example, if you've had a car accident and it was traumatic, you probably want to take a different route. Now, it may not always be possible, but whenever you go there, you kind of close your eyes and try to forget what actually happened on that day. Another one is intrusion. This is a very common symptom. A lot of people who've had traumatic incidences tell me they have nightmares. They actually have both daytime flashbacks, and at night when they sleep, they have trouble sleeping because they wake up, they have nightmares of something that already happened. That's because our brains are quite creative. They actually replay scenes of something that happened in the past as if it's happening right now. So the fourth symptom is negative alterations in mood and cognition. So that basically means mood changes. A lot of people who are traumatized become withdrawn. If you are very social, you love talking to people, you stop, you all of a sudden want to isolate. And then a lot of negative thoughts. I have walked with people down a hallway and all they're thinking is, who's coming at this corner? Who's coming at this corner? Remember when the PTSD diagnosis started with war veterans, when they came back to their original countries and those places were safe, their brains operate as if they're still in the war zone. So in the war zone, that's an adaptive survival mechanism, but when you're out of the war zone, and you're still wondering if there's any danger in your environment, that's what we call hypervigilance. So it's another very, very, very common symptom. And of course, all these symptoms cause distress and impair your functioning. So for example, if you're a student, you may find it difficult to continue with class if, say, for example, you've been kidnapped, or something. And then lastly, this condition is not caused by any substances or medical conditions. So those are the 7 symptoms of PTSD. For PTSD diagnosis, the time factor is very critical. It does not happen immediately. It's not a sudden diagnosis. Usually because it's a stressor-related condition, you actually need a professional to diagnose you. A professional can give you a standardized test that's self-administered. For example, the PTSD checklist. This is a test that's used all over the world. However, even if you self-administer, you can tick on all the questions you're asked, you actually need a professional to get to know if you've actually met all the 7 symptoms of PTSD and if you actually fit the criteria. So no, you cannot self-diagnose. There's a lot on the internet out there, and that's good for awareness, but you actually need a professional to diagnose that. So there's quite a host of treatments for PTSD. In my line of counseling, I specialize in creative arts. So I really value that people who are, young and creative, like students, will actually tell me, they will narrate these stories to people. So narrative therapy is actually a very good technique. Drama therapy, very wonderful. Some people tell me they actually process their stories by drawing. So if you're a person who can actually draw, the reason is trauma sits in our bodies as well as our brains. So we actually use techniques that deal with both the body, the rest of the body and the brain. And so drawing, drama, singing, writing, reading, including reading, and all kinds of creative arts is very important. We also do cognitive or brain kind of focused therapies. For example, there's one very highly specialized one called eye movement desensitization reprocessing. So in short, it's EMDR. This is a well-validated therapy for trauma that has somebody shift the processing of trauma from the left brain, which is your logical brain. Your brain is in 2 hemispheres, right? So from the left brain to the right brain, your right brain is your creative brain, right? And so to shift the way trauma is sitting in your brain is very crucial. So we do both cognitive work and body work. PTSD is actually a treatable condition. We check the 7 symptoms, as I explained earlier, and we want to know how are you doing with each of these symptoms. For example, if you've had nightmares for the last 1 week, I want to know how was your sleep pattern the last 1 week? Were you actually able to finally sleep without nightmares? And it's possible to be rid of all the symptoms. I actually prefer to use the word survivors than victims. The reason is we want to always have an empowering context when we talk about people who've been affected by PTSD. Remember, a lot of times when trauma happens, it's not, you didn't call on it. If you're kidnapped, put in the trunk of a vehicle and driven for a whole day, you don't call on it. Yet now we say that these are sick people, right? So we want to really remove the stigma. So for survivors, there's a host of facilities that could be of use. For one, if you're a student, you can actually visit your counseling center, your counseling office at your college. For workers in the general public, there's quite a number of facilities now that you can go to. Any primary healthcare facility where there's a doctor or a nurse, they should know about trauma, and they should be able to assist. That's usually the first line of response. And then we have quite a number of other faith-based organizations. We have a host of NGOs just working. Nowadays, there are even apps, there are online apps that you can actually get to assist with different kinds of, help, including hotline numbers. So it is actually really easy. Nowadays, help is just a click away. Yeah.
PTSD is a big deal, and I think each and every single person should know more about it.
Checking your mental health is super important. If you are a survivor of PTSD, please do reach out. Help is always on the other side.
And on that note, it's time for a quick commercial break. Welcome back to Proudly Young Live. I am Sean Gatia.
Empress Wendy Wangoi. Sean, tupeleke na Rieng.
Sawa sawa mkubwa.
Don't worry, that's why we have a Sheng masterclass. Salim, tuambie.
Niajeni wase, pale mtaani mimi utambulika kama Salem. Muko bie, muko aire. Najua wengine wenu mshaanza kufloat. Msijali, ndio maana tuko na hii Sheng masterclass. Acha sasa niwapeleke na Rieng na zile maneno nadai mjue. At number 1, tuko na mukoro, which means a mother. At number 2, tuko na form, which means a plan. Uko na form ya weekend. At number 3, tuko na tenje. It can both mean a radio system or a phone. At number 4, tuko na mjengo, which means a workplace. Acha sasa tuende kwa ground. Juu mnajua mambo kwa ground ni different. Tukajua kama hao wase wanajua hii lugha mtaani. Buda ni aje?
Ni aje.
Ushikilie kwanza 3 za urasi.
Mimi niko fiti.
Mimi naitwa Salem na nimetoka kuna hii kitu ya Sheng masterclass, ndio tulikuwa tunachukua analysis tujue kama watu wanajua hii lugha mtaani.
Salem. Mimi naitwa Timo.
Timo fit.
Timo base ni LD. But niko Nairobi sasa ina Utawala hustle hapa na pale.
Buda. Ni aje?
Niko swadakta.
Nimesikia wewe ndio ile kuchi wa Sheng.
Na amekueleza, yeye amekuchocha kuruka.
Huko tu.
Wapi huko?
Si ni huko tu.
Hii kidato tena kidogo wengi wanaongeanga kizungu. Hata mimi naombanga hiyo meli ingedunda.
So unaitwa aje? Hebu tuambie tu.
Mimi naitwa Escobar Kapol.
Hizo zote. Hauna zingine?
Sina zingine.
Na za ID?
ID naitwa Paul Mwaora. Alafu yeye mwisho kidogo labda ukuje uniulize personal.
Na mtani ni wapi?
Natoka hapa Kiambio. Mamangu amelelewa Kibera. Nashukuru Sagodi mali tumefika.
Sasa nimesikia umetoka LD na sasa uko Nairobi. Umenotice kuna ka difference ka Sheng ya huko LD na huko Nairobi?
Kuna difference kubwa sana manze. Sasa si ati nachoma but yenyewe Sheng LD. Sheng LD iko chini. Iko chini.
Na juu nimesikia umeishi different places. Umenotice kuna difference ya Sheng huko na huko?
Ina determine na watu unapatana. Kila mtu anakuanga na maneno yake kwa mdomo. Unapata watu wa kwingine wanajua Rieng ni rada na kuna mtu anajua rada ni Rieng. Yaani vitu the same zinamaanisha kitu moja, unaona? Ina depend mali unatoka na mtu unaongea na yeye sana.
Unaweza niambia tu words kamoja mbili ya huko ya Sheng LD.
LD unapata mzee bado anakuambia ati bonoko, sijui ati quiz, ati wiz, sasa quiz ni kufanya.
Organization utokeanga wapi, like ni jina inatokanga na mtu ama nini?
Naweza sema sasa ni venye watu wako bazu pale wanashikisha.
Bazu ni wapi? Unajua kuna watu waji bazu ni wapi?
Ni base like
base.
Ni base tu, watu wanajibamba, watu wako hapo. Kidogo unasikia watu wakitumana wanaongeza maneno juu ya leta. Unapata kama kizungu kidogo inabadilishwa inakuwa Kiswahili na Kizungu.
Naweza tupeka example hivi.
Sasa hapo inaweza kuwa ngumu juu kidogo tena maneno mingi ni mingi, yani ziu kuanga kibao, huwezi jua hizo Sheng. Like hata hizi ngoma zimetokea ni mpya zinaitwa gengeton. Unapata kuna watu hawajui lakini wanaisikiza tu, lakini kuna mtu anajua maana yake juu au wanatumia Sheng, unaona? Wanatumia neno yenye watu wengi hawajui but bado watu wengi wanajua, unaona?
Na sasa nikakukujia like saa 8 za usiku nikakuuliza, Buda amuka niambie maneno karibu 4 za Sheng. Unaweza niambia?
Kwanza mimi nitakuuliza rada. Hiyo ni form plan. Alafu nikwambie Kiroma, kuna kitu kaa Kiroma, kuna masanse. Sanse unajua ni makarao.
Na kuna mtu elewi hizo zote mbili.
Hiyo sasa unapata inabidi tumeelewa manzi, inabidi tumejua.
Agano naweza sema kuna feature ya hii
ya Sheng nadhani hata iwezi isha. Ilianza kitambo hata tangu ya mababu wetu. Sasa ndio tunaweza sema watu kadhaa wameanza kukua strong nayo, wengine inawapenda, wengine inawabamba, but nadhani life iko BA na hiyo Sheng haiwezi isha hii Kenya. Juu hata Tanzania wanaipenda.
Haya, ishafika huko?
Tanzania inawapenda, Uganda pia hapa kando inatupenda sana, kwanza hiyo Kiswahili yetu. Ni rahisi mtu anaweza ipata.
Sasa unaweza tuacha na jina moja ya Sheng.
Jina moja ya Sheng.
Si jina moja ndio nimesikia wewe ndio gwiji. Majina kiasi.
Sasa hii masaa niko nayo tena ni ya kwenda darasani, unaona? Nataka kujipatch niingie hivi daro, hiyo masaa nyingine tena round 2 tutachapiana, au sio?
Mshasikia tunapatana
round 2.
Tatu za urasi. Awolan
blessed Jamaican.
Unaweza ambia nini wale watu wana watch like Sheng ni important aje? How is Sheng important?
Sheng ni important juu sana kwa sisi watu kama vijana. Juu tuna relate nayo fiti sana, si ndio? So Sheng ni important manze. So hata inafaa ifanywe national language, kitu kaa hiyo manze.
Wenyewe unasikia inafaa kuwa national language. Wase, show imekuwa fresh, imekuwa mabubia. Najua sana next time. Sasa ukisikia wase wakibonga Sheng pale mtaani, hauta float.
Wendy, I learned something new.
Please share.
Niko BA. No, not happening.
No, it's okay, Sean. There's always a
next time.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Here is an inspirational story by one Tende, a man who, despite being diagnosed with cancer, has been able to come out victorious. He's now a rugby player and kicking it more than ever.
My name is Harold Bolton Tende Mokuro, born and raised in Mombasa. Basically, I grew up from Mombasa. I came to Nairobi. I came from Nairobi to look for rugby. I love rugby as a sport because it has built me up as a person, learn how to work well in front of others, with others, and the characters, the discipline and everything. It has indisciplined me as a person. It has installed some values within me that I'm able to interact and share with people. Yeah, so as a person, basically, rugby has made me grow.
The first time I met him, he was recuperating from cancer. This is, I think, 2015, 2014. And I met him with a couple of other rugby guys who he was trying to join their club. So I don't know what happened, but he ended up here and I didn't give up on him, and he never gave up. He's a fighter. That's what I know. Yeah,
I think for me, I came to know Tend about 2 years ago. I would describe him as a very resilient person. After getting to select him to play and going through the different modes of training and just being able to just see him playing, I then knew about his background after the fact, and for me it gave me a lot of respect for him and admiration, because I saw someone who's very resilient. When we went to Mombasa, I think 2 years ago, and he was finally playing for the second team, I didn't know that how much that meant to him.
Mombasa being the hometown.
Yes. And he came later after the game. He came and told me that there were very many players or individuals on the crowd that had told him before that he would never play again. And so for me, having to now get to know even more about his background, what he had gone through, that gave me a lot of admiration and respect for him. And he has continued to grow in leaps and bounds. Been able to play for the first team in a couple of tournaments. And I think the future is bright for him going forward.
Okay, there's a moment that I don't know if it's funny or embarrassing. It's more of inspirational, but it's one of my most solid memories of him. He, as you know, Roldy's been through quite a lot, and just when he had started recovering to the point where he can exert himself physically, one morning we came to training and he said he was just going to run around. I said, okay, that's fine. And our morning trainings here at Strath on Saturday are very, very intense, and especially when it gets physical. So the coach divided us into teams and said, okay guys, have at it. So here we are, separated into two teams, knocking the stuffing out of each other, and Rolly decides that he wants to join in. And I see him walk onto the pitch because it's rotational teams. And I'm thinking, this guy is going to end up back in hospital because he's not at full recovery. As I'm trying to look at the coach to get him off the pitch, I see him get knocked over so hard, his body literally folded in half and came back. And I'm thinking, that's it. That's it, he's gone. And he stands up, he shakes it off, and he looks really mad, and he runs straight at the next player with the ball. And I'm thinking, this guy is less than half the size of some of these guys, and he just got smashed again and again. And I was thinking, I've always known Roldy to have a big heart, but this is ridiculous. And at the end of that training session, I told him, if you got hurt today, you know it's your sister who'd have killed you. And he said, don't worry, I'm fine. And from that day, it's been up and up. I've only seen him get stronger, I've only seen him get better, I've only seen him get braver.
He's a hard-working guy, that's for one. And he's very passionate about the sport of rugby. Sometimes with this sport you get knocked down a couple of times, and for him, not being the biggest player, but his confidence is bigger or much more than some of us who are even bigger than him and even the more experienced players. So his courage and his hard work and passion for the game and passion for life in general inspires me to keep on doing my stuff and not to give up as well.
I think other men can learn to never put your head down. Never let life get the better of you if you have a choice. He had a choice and he made it, and he practically is beginning to live his dream. So I think that's the one thing that people need to be able to understand. Never let life get the better of you, and never let your head dip.
To be honest, him being a survivor was motivational but surprising, because it's a rare case for someone to really fight and be able to survive cancer. It's one of the blue, one in a million things that happens. It's a rare chance to meet someone of that sort. So to me, he was a motivation to me.
Yeah, so I think the one thing that brought us together, one, we are both athletes at Strathmore University, and two, we both happen to be cancer survivors.
For cancer, when they're going through their physical changes, it is usually accompanied with also emotional and psychological symptoms as well. So in order to offer support, it's always important to be able to know where exactly is the client, on which stage is the client. Are they facing shock? Are they going through an anxious moment? Are they in a depressive state? So once you're able to capture where they are, whatever stage they are, you can be able now to address it. For instance, we encourage a lot of openness, creating an environment of empathy, whereby you can ask a client, how's your day? How are you feeling? That way you can be able to know how to bridge in the gap. So practical example could be visiting a friend. That is, it's a good validation just to know that they have a support system. Another way could be just checking up on them, especially if you're not able to see them on a day-to-day basis. A phone call, a text is always very recommended. Sometimes just to know like their environment. Do they have kids? Just to know how are their kids going to be taken care of, how are they eating, and being able to facilitate that. So it's very important to be able to know where is the client at, so that you can be able to know where you can be able to come in. But anything and everything is appreciated, especially with the patient, because they're going through a distressful moment, and what we are trying to do at this particular point is put the stress down. Okay, so anything that can be able to ensure that the stress is on a minimal level is highly recommended.
Well, I would see it in him, like he was so sad, he was not happy about it, because it was really his passion, even though we never saw it, because we never used to go to see him playing it or doing anything about it. But we could see the way he was so sad about it, and he would really try and explain to us how it is his passion, that's what he loves. And it was just there. He never gave up on it.
He had cancer, and he battled it. It was not easy, really, because it made him for some time actually leave rugby and what he loved at that moment. And right now he's playing rugby, he's back to active play. So for him, he is a survivor, because so many people actually die from cancer, especially in this country, that so many people are not able to access cancer, medical assessment and all that. But he was able to battle it out.
I really love his resilience and his positive energy towards everything. Even when he was sick, he had that positive energy towards it. Even us, the ones who were taking care of him, we were like, it would really beat us. Like sometimes we would break down, but for him, he was so positive about it. He knew he would conquer. He knew he would get through it. So I love his resilience and his positive energy towards everything.
On that inspiring note, let's take a break.
I'm hungry. Yummy.
Keep it locked on PY Live. We're back from paying the bills.
As you know, Wendy, today's world is run by money. So how far would you be willing to go for the dollar?
I mean, I'm trying to secure the bag, but there are some jobs that are just too weird. I wouldn't do them.
Well, on that note, let's take a look at the top 5 most odd jobs.
Number 5 on the countdown, we have matatu fillers.
What are those?
These are people who get into the matatu and they alight as you come in. So it's like a bit of a mind game.
It's like we're playing cat and mouse over here.
Yeah.
Well, on number 4, we have deodorant testers.
Testers like the one that The ones that come in the mall?
Well, you'd think, but no. So these are actually people whose job is to smell people's armpits. And word on the street has it that you have to be really good at this job.
Why would you do that when you can look at number 3, which is earning 25K in 5 minutes?
How does this happen?
Just go to your local hospital and become a sperm donor.
I don't think I would become a sperm donor because imagine knowing that you have a child somewhere out there, maybe your neighbor, maybe Jay-Z, maybe Obama, and you're just over here, kazi ni donate kila mahali. So I don't think I would do that. On number 2, we have cuddlers. So these guys literally just come and hold you and embrace you. Well, you're just in that mood of wanting to be cuddled. Is this something you'd be open to do?
Come, hold, embrace. Yes, in this weather, in this economy, yes. On number 1, we have professional mourners.
So, like, what happens here?
You just go to a burial and you cry and cry
And cry.
and cry and cry and cry and you get your check.
That's something I'd consider doing, despite how many people make my day such a mess. If someone is actually paying me to cry, that's something I'd be up for.
Me too. Like, I've been crying for free my whole life.
Yeah, so being paid for it is actually interesting.
Cleaning up public toilets because I like hygiene, but it's just the gagging part that wouldn't get me through and end up making the situation worse.
Oh, hesitate that smell. I can't. The smell is just nasty.
Yeah.
I'd rather do another job but not washing someone's feet.
And any other weird job that follows that?
I think toilets.
Washing toilets?
Yes, washing toilets.
So would you consider being a conductor, a matatu conductor?
Actually, I'd find that quite interesting.
Wow, how? Why?
Sometimes I usually fantasize over the whole process of, hey, beba, like enacting those scenarios.
Yeah.
Beba. What is it? Rockabano.
Bano, it's banana.
Banana.
Oh, okay, fine.
So before we leave, we want to show you guys some highlights from a Sisimka event that we had a couple of weeks ago.
Sisimka is an event that's showcasing new talent into the industry. I was the producer, dealing with artists and ensuring that everything is going on well throughout the event. So yeah.
Sisimka is an event that gives students a platform rather than audience, especially on music and sound students, to showcase their talent by performing lively and also playing musical instruments. This has helped most of them to build their self-esteem and also the stage presence.
I'm Paxton Mutinda. I'm an intern at Coke Studio. I was doing a graphic design. I was a part MC of the event.
Back from the den, they don't understand. The lions, my homies, you're cooking your friends. I'm cooking with friends, keeping each other alive. Yeah, what you are, kizazi in the gang. Yeah, we insane. Look how far we came with dreams and nothing in our pockets but change. Blink it but change. How many more to measure for you to get that we changing the game? Yeah, no more distractions. I'ma kill him and taking no chance. The rapper, bet you didn't know. Kid is been coming up to your favorite rapper. Got like 4 more bars on this shit. Brown sugar rapping, so you know it's lit. I'm breaking your love, come my kid. Card plus the rollie says it's time to go check chop. Yeah.
My name is Valerie Mudhoni Niaje. And I'm so happy to be here. I used to be here and now I'm out. I graduated. That's what's up.
The nice thing with Sisimka, everybody was hyped. I think the MCs did a good job, and even Valerie created this sort of ambience where there was no music playing around, but she sort of managed to vibe all of the crowd. I think that was nice.
So, It's okay, we're starting again. Senior. Let's do it.
It has been an opportunity for basically all the students, like the music student, showcasing what their talent is and maybe comes to singing. The sound student, setting up the equipment for sound to just like how concert and outside ADMI works. So it's just putting in practice. And then for film and TV, they played their part in covering the whole event, which also gives them an opportunity to know what happens outside. Like you can be called sometime to go and cover an event.
Everybody beat it. Let's go.
Yeah. 07, so we exchanged. He broke your heart, I saw the pieces when you explained. Told you that it would be okay if you just exhale. He was a player, he was headed for the next game. You was running, you was lucky, I was scuba diving. You say it's feeling like it's magic, how I got you smiling. Now you saying that I could be the one. I am 0 without you, we are 10 when you're the one. Now you're doing love straight up in my mind. Pretty lady, baby, you one of a kind. I found me a diamond, they be looking for stones. My African queen, let me put you on the throne. Let me check you home, let me check you to Mama Midi. So I'll never leave if you promise you'll never leave me. Make me your Mr. Definitely you my missus. Woman of my dreams.
It was a good experience for upcoming artists and people who want to get used to the stage. Because it was incorporating artists who have never actually done a live show and artists who have done a live show. Yes.
Baby, I'm not with you. Let me hear you say, with you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Proudly Young Live. I've been your host, Wendy Wangui.
And I've been your host, Sean Gatia. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms. Till next time, bye.